All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is Stephen Jackson with Imprintable's Warehouse, and this is CorelDRAW, Session 3, working with text. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedules, as always, to join me today. We're going to be going over a lot of different stuff. There's quite a bit of information jam-packed into this webinar, so hopefully we'll be able to get through everything and teach you guys a bunch of neat tricks and give you a better understanding of the text tools and all the effects that you can do with them and how to use that to make your designs a little above the competition. So we always start off with the poll questions, so Jody, let's get to those.
Hello, Stephen. Thanks for joining us today. My name's Jody from Great Garment Graphics, and we do have a couple polls, or actually about 4 questions to start off with, just to get an idea of what we're working with here today.
Okay, the first one, what version of CorelDRAW are you using? Real quick and easy answer on that, just to help me get a better understanding of what people are using out there. In the webinar today, I am going to be showing Corel X6, but most of the tools and functions that I'll show you in there are available in X5 and X4.
Okay, let's see. Looks like,
see how many there are.
Yeah, everybody's using X5 or X6.
Yeah, X5.
Yeah, so kind of a...
I found that quite a bit through the different trade shows and stuff and talking to people that X5 still seems to be the predominant one out there. But X6 has got a lot of great tools in it, some definite upgrades. So if you're thinking about it, I encourage it. Next one, how long have you been using CorelDRAW? Another quick and easy one. I suspect a bunch of people will be in the beginner stages, maybe the first 2 answer 6 months to a year or 1 to 3 years. I've been using CorelDRAW myself since version 9. That was a little while back.
Here we go. So we have 35% at 5+ years.
Wow, this is even across the board almost.
Pretty much.
I wasn't expecting that. I actually thought it would be heavier in the first 2. So
I did
excellent.
too, actually. And are you using CorelDRAW to make CAD cut designs?
What we're talking about is CAD cut for heat transfer or even CAD cut for sign, decal, medias. Just are you using it with a cutter, basically. And for everybody out there, this question always comes up. This will be recorded and should probably be on the Great Garment Graphics website and on their YouTube channel either tomorrow or the next day. So you can go back and watch the whole webinar over. Okay, wow, overwhelming, 81% there, and yes. And the don't knows, if you're not sure and you want some help with some of that, shoot me an email. I'll be sure to help you out. One more, I believe. There we go. Are you using CorelDRAW to make print and cut designs? We're talking about print and cut for either an inkjet or eco-solvent-based printers. So you may be using one of the Roland's or Mimaki, Muto, something like that, or you're working with Roland GX24 and you're doing inkjet transfers and then using the OptiGly registration system to cut those. I'll apologize if my throat gets clogged up here a little bit. I'm still fighting a little bit of a chest cold. And no, 62%. I actually thought this would be higher on the yes end. So I've been surprised by a bunch of them today. All right. Well, that is the poll questions for this. So we will jump into the slides. My mouse will respond here. And we'll get into working with text. Thanks, Jody. The first one here, I'm going to go over the slides real quick and spend most of our time within CorelDRAW itself. We've got the text basics. We're going to talk about artistic text. We're going to get into the basic controls of that, working with fill and outline, stroke, font library, open type fonts, kerning. You guys can read all this here. And we're also going to touch on paragraph text. So let's jump into Corel and get to page 1 on this. I thought I was prepared. So page 1, we've got a couple different pieces of text on here. What you're looking at is the artistic text right now, meaning that in paragraph text, like on page 2, we have a whole paragraph area defined and the text goes into that. But we'll go back to page 1 here, and artistic text is what most people work with. When I go to my text tool on the side over here and come on down, we have that little A letter right there. I can click on it and I can come out here and just type in whatever I want. And printables. We'll put that up there. And now I can see I've got a bunch of tools up top here that I can work with. I've got the positioning of it, the size of it here. We can rotate it. This little lock here will lock our dimensions. So if I wanted to adjust this text, maybe I want it 8 inches across and I hit 8, it's proportional because that lock was in there. So now I wanted it 8 inches by 1 inches. If I remove that lock ratio and I put 1 in here, now it'll stretch it up slightly in there to make it 8 by 1. We've got our angle right here that we can put in there. So if I need to make this maybe 45 degrees, I can angle that there and change it to 45. And then we've got our mirror tools here. I can mirror horizontally and vertically. So I can flip that around that way and this way and all over the place. In here we have our font list that's loaded into here. The font list in Corel will pull from what fonts are installed into Windows. And later on in the webinar, I'm going to show you the font navigator that comes with CorelDRAW and how you can use that to pick out different fonts and install them onto your system. But right now what I'm going to show you is, let's move this over a little bit. It's nice to have your text over on the side when you're working with the artistic text, and you want to be able to check out how different fonts look. And I'll even minimize this right here so we've got a little bit more room. And when I drop down this font list here, as I go through them, you'll see it update on the screen. So when I highlight over balloon, it goes to the balloon font, and we've got Arial Black. Let's go to Add City Boy. You can see it updating on the screen. So if I give it a second in between each one of these, I can see where it's at. And there's also, for some of them, they may have other options, like in the Caslon Pro here, the Adobe one, I've got semi-bold, semi-bold italic, and it'll change it on the screen for me. So we can do quite a bit from here, looking through fonts and finding one that might fit best for the design and seeing how they look in real time on the screen. But what happens a lot of times is people have this and they're all zoomed in here and they grab that font, and when you do this now, you can't always see what's going on because the screen is in front of it. So just remember to kind of pull that over to the side a little bit so you can see what's going on with it. So I'm going to go ahead and delete that guy right there, and we'll zoom back in, making an adjustment here real quick. So the basic controls of the text are up top. When you select the text and you've got it there. I've also the font list right there, and I can also adjust my font size here. So I can scroll down through this and say I wanted 100 for that, or 150, and you can even type it in there. So, well, 100's too small, 150's too big, so let's just jump into here, and I will put 125, and it hit enter, and it adjusts the text for me. If this particular font allowed for bold or italicized, those would be open for me to work with, and I can also do an underline right there, apply that into it. This here goes into horizontal alignment for our text, and I can change the alignment of it within that area. So if I had multiple lines in there, I could work with that. And then here we've got our text properties for paragraph and artistic text. It goes into the properties box for it. And in here I can edit the text. I clicked on that properties and it opened up over here. This one here, edit text, if I click in there, it opens up another screen. Let me drag it over for you guys. I've got a dual monitor system. And I can type it right in here. I can say Great Garment Graphics, and when I hit enter, when I hit OK, actually, it will change that to what I've edited in there. And this is really useful later on when we get into aligning text or fitting text to path, to be able to edit it there rather than on the screen, because it allows us a little bit more room to work with. And a lot of times the rendering in Corel 6, and I even saw it in 4 and 5, in X4 and 5 rather, it didn't always update on the screen, so it seemed a little jumbled. But if I go to the edit text portion, it does a better job of it. So we'll put that back to artistic text there. Now, if I want to change the fill on this or outline, even without the text properties, in this Docker over here that I opened up, you can open up any one of the Dockers by coming up to Window, Dockers, And there's a whole list of them here that you can work with within Corel. And this one here is just the text properties. Where's the text properties down in here? I'm sorry, this one you do open up from the text properties right up in here, that portion. So that'll open up the text properties Docker for us over here. So in here I can also adjust the font list in it. I can change my points, how big it is in there, and I can change the fill and the background color and the outline color. I can also change my fill and outline colors just like any other item in CorelDRAW. If I want to change the fill, say to this bluish color over here, the cyan, I would left click on it and it will change it to that cyan. If now I want to give it a black outline, I can right click, so outline is right click, fill is left click, and when I right click it puts that outline around it. And here's an issue going on with this particular font, and one of the reasons why I chose it. You can see that there's overlaps in the lines right there, and we're going to show you a little bit later on how to work with that and how to fix that portion in there. So for fill and outline, it's simply left click and right click. I can give that, we'll go back to fill on this guy. Go back to fill on it and we'll make it black and no outline. Okay, so you got to be careful, and what you see is not always what you get, and we'll cover this a little bit later as well, but when you go to wireframe you can see where there's overlaps within a font. Okay, and let's take a look at this and get a little bit fancier on it. I can also work with my fill tools in here. If I wanted to change that from a uniform fill, say, to a fountain fill, now that's a fountain fill, and I can even choose from some presets, so I can make some pretty neat stuff in there just from within the text properties Docker right there. And then again on my outline, if I wanted to give it a background, this is a background fill type, so we'll give it a uniform fill there, and you can see it makes a block around it. The background fill there doesn't necessarily give it anything curved or anything like that. It's just a block inside there. So I usually don't do anything with that. And you can get into some further properties on it, say like the fill settings, these little dots next to it. We'll open up another dialog. And where'd that go for me? I got to grab the window on the other side. And you can see here it opens up the fountain fill Docker, and I can change where each one of these go. I could change a color. I want that one to be red now. And I want this purple down here to be orange. And when I hit OK, you'll see it changes it within there, and I've made a custom fill across there, a custom fountain fill. So there's quite a bit you can do within this Docker over here. Let's change that back to black. Make sure I'm following along with my slides here. And the font library, we talked about that. Let's talk about some open type fonts. The second one in here is a font within there that's called Gabriola, and it's an open type font. When I click on this one, I can see that I've got these lettering and items down in here are open for me. And before, when I was saying artistic text, they were all grayed out. This is not an open type font. It's a true type font. You can see the TT right there. And not all open type fonts have options with them, but quite a few of them do. So this one here, now I've got all these options in here, but I can access it a little nicer in Corel 6 by simply highlighting this here. And then I've got this little arrow right there that I can drop down. And when I drop down that arrow, I can see some of the different things that can happen with this font because of the open type to it and all the artistic renderings that are in there. It can add some of these neat effects in here, little stylized ends and swashes and brushes off the end of it. And you can see all the neat things you can do about it and do with it. So the open type fonts give you a lot more options within that font itself, and you can do some very cool stuff with it, but you have to have a font that is an open type font. So as you're in X6, I don't think this is really well supported in 5 or 4. You can take a look in here and see this might be something that would have people upgrade Corel there. So, and most of you didn't have X6, so I'm kind of staying out of that for a little bit. Although, there we go. Last in this portion for text basics before we get on to paragraph text is the kerning. And when we talk about kerning, kerning is the spacing in between the letters. You can do some pretty neat stuff with this as well. When I've got the text selected, you can see these little dots that are underneath it. Let's zoom in a little bit so you guys can see this better. And just a hair out. So I'm going to zoom like this so we can see it a little bit better. You can see the dots under each one of the letters, and that's a control node for it. So when I go to my shape tool for the text, first I can adjust spacing in between lines. So if there were 2 lines on this, Let's actually get in there and make it so there's 2 lines. So we'll say artistic text testing, and I go again to this. This one here controls so I can adjust the spacing in between lines. So I could bring this all the way up so it's really close on there. And that's also adjusted right here. So I can change that portion there. So let's get rid of that second line because I don't need that to show you. We'll delete that and backspace on up. And let's work with the other control node, this one here. This spreads out the text and gives it more spacing in between, which is also right here within it. Now I can also do something else that's neat. I can grab one or a couple of these nodes right here, and we can move these guys wherever we want. So let's put that guy back. And if I selected a few of these, now I could say artistic text and move it up like this, or down and over, however I wanted this on here. And you can make some pretty cool effects with it. I could even kind of combine it in there so it flows in between the two, so now I look like I've got a stylized letter on it. So kind of neat tools that you can work with on the kerning. Definitely play around with those and see what you like on it. But that is how you get into the kerning and spacing unless you want to work with it over in this area here under the text properties portion. I don't think a lot of you out there in the heat transfer world are working too much with paragraph text, but I do want to touch on some of it. So let's come up to this. In paragraph text, I've just got a little article I'd written for one of the previous webinars that I've done, a little blog article. You can see that it's all laid out in there, and when we go to the text tool, I can create a new area by simply dragging it instead of just clicking on the screen. So if I want to do text in artistic text, I left click and I can type in here. And that now is an artistic text just like on the first page. For the paragraph text, if I click inside there, now I can say text in here, and it's controlled as a paragraph like this over in here, where I can tab into it, I can have spacing in between the lines, I can write it just like an article. This would be if I'm working on, say, like a brochure or a flyer or something like that. Anything where we would have a text box within there. Those that you are doing print and cut, maybe you're doing some sort of signs and you need a paragraph area in there. This would be a perfect way to do that. But a lot of the people I talk to in the garment industry don't use this function in there. But I did want to touch on it. You can adjust the entire column, the entire paragraph area, paragraph text area, dragging one line over or both lines, and we can change the size of it there. It's dynamic. It runs within there. And we can change individual lines and their alignment up here and their sizing and everything else. And we also have all the controls over here to work with their spacing and sizing. Now later on I'm going to show you something neat working with paragraph text and artistic text to make a pretty cool design that's interactive and can have some neat effects with it. But paragraph text is just text that's within a box, and then our artistic text is the single line or dual line text where it's not bounded within a box on it. So those are the two types of text there. Let's go back over to the slides. That was the text basics. And now let's get into more text stuff. We're going to show how to fit to path and work on a couple different variations in there and show you some cool stuff. Using outlines, talking about how an outline works within text in CorelDRAW and why a lot of times you'll want to convert that outline to object. And then we're going to weld some fonts for cutting and remove overlapping lines and talk about that. So let's go back over to CorelDRAW. And we'll go on to page 4. Okay. So we've got a couple different texts here and different paths to go with. We've got the circle, I've got a curved line. So let's actually cut that guy out and we'll do this again. Oops, wrong thing there. I just want to take the font. Let's get rid of this. And that way we've got nothing on there, just our path. And I've got some text up here. I can make a couple copies of this. I'll left click on it, and when I drag it over, as I'm dragging it, I right click. That makes a copy that we'll use on the circle here. We'll use one down here that we'll put onto path, and I've got one over there. and this one will just be our control. A lot of times when I'm working with a text to path, I want to make a copy of it, because if I make a mistake or I change things and it's not how I want and I just want to kind of reset, I've got that original one that I can delete when I'm all done, but it's still there. So, excuse me, there's that cold kicking in. So let's first start off with the circle. When I've got this text right here and I've got a circle and I want to have that text go along the path there, we select the text. I go up to my text header up here, and I will go down to Fit Text to Path. Now it's asking me to select the path, and I can just hover over the top of it, and I caught this line right here. If I came over to here, it'll jump onto that portion, or onto this one, it'll jump onto that portion. But let's start with the circle. You see that red line in the center there? That shows me that it's centered on the circle there. I can draw it up from there to make it further out if I want to, and adjust how far off the line it goes. We can drag it to the inside and have it go just to the inside of it. And I can even drag it to the bottom. And now on the bottom, though, you see it's backwards. So let's go with this one first. When I click it on there, it's backwards on the circle. And I'm going to zoom in on this so you guys can see it a little bit better. So it's backwards on the circle, but what I need to do now is we have that text mirroring up here that I could work with. So I'll mirror it first horizontally, and then I'll mirror it vertically, and now you can see the text is inside, is right there on the circle, just how I wanted it. If I want more spacing on it, I can go over here to my kerning and adjust my spacing, and you can see it drawing out there, and it's still centered on the circle. So I can adjust it right in there. Now if I wanted to, I could grab the Node Edit tool and go back to my kerning, but as you see, it's not changing visibly on the screen. I'm not seeing it change there. When I let go, it updates, but it's not very good at rendering that on the fly. So this is where I personally prefer using the text properties box, because I can adjust it right here and see it on the screen and tell, yes, that's where I want it. Now I can also go back to my pick tool, and this red box right here, that allows me to grab that and move it in and out as it was before, and I can play all around with this. When we get it to the side there, you can see the little red line that shows me that it's perfectly lined up with the side there, and that's the center. And then back up to the top here, let's get it centered, and I want it on the outside again now, so I'll flip it and flip it. It's on the outside. I want it above the circle, so we'll take it to there, and you can see how working with that is. Now if I don't want that circle anymore, I'm happy with the way this is set up. I can click on the circle itself. I can right click and cut, and that gets rid of the circle and just leaves my text right there. Now that's important. I'm going to hit Control-Z and put that back, because a lot of times people will just simply take this and say, well, I'm all done with that. I don't need an outline color, so I'll either right click and convert to curves, what they'll do, and that separates this, and now this is a bunch of curves, and now I can delete my circle, get rid of that. That works, but this is no longer a font. It's just a bunch of curves right now. There's no font properties to it. So when I go back and I take the circle and right click and cut it, now this up here, it's still a font, and I can still adjust this. It's just on a curve right now. So if I wanted to edit this text, I could come to Text and where we go, Edit Text right there, or to the Edit Text box over there, and change this to Great Garment Graphics, and hit OK, and we'll see it update on the screen. And it flattened it out at this point, though. So that is a little bit of an issue right there, that it changed it to the flatten, and I would have to go back to the circle. But it is still a text at that point, and we can adjust the different properties of it. So I'll hit Z back to there. I can still adjust the properties here on the spacing and where it sits in there, and also the font size of it if I wanted to. So we could take this to 75, say, and it will increase it right there. So those properties stay the same, but if I edit the text, it flattens it out on there. So that's to a circle, and we'll just go ahead and delete that. And now let's take a look at a couple different options here with this. This one here, I've created a curve, and a lot of people are trying to make lines like that where it's a nice even curve. I'll show you how to do that real quickly. It's important to note which way you make the curve, because when the text goes to path, it's going to flow along the direction that the curve was made. So I'm going to use the 2-point line tool, and I'll make another one right here. And I'll click here and I'll hold shift and come to this side. And I'll do another one up here. I'll click here and I'll hold shift and go to this side. So with these two lines, let's make them a little bit bigger so it's easier to fit to path. And we'll move this guy out of the way for right now. I'll take this guy here and make that a little bit longer. Now what I'll do with this is zoom in on it so we can see it a little bit better. I'm going to go to my shape tool right here, and I'm going to add another node in there. So I double clicked on that. I added a node right there. Now I'm going to right click on this portion in between and tell it to curve, and we can curve this up. And I'll right click over here and make that to a curve, and I'll curve this one down, get it to where I like it. It's nice and smooth. And I can right click on this and tell it to smooth that curve so it's an even transition between the two. We'll do the same with this one. I'll add a node there, and I'll right click on this and to curve. And then I'll right click on this one and to curve as well. So now we've got two that look identical, and we'll smooth that out. But they start a different ways. You can see the arrow here and the arrow there, which way it's flowing on there. And this one here, the arrow here and the arrow there, which way it's flowing. So let's move that guy up just a little bit. And we're going to take this one over here and make a copy. And we'll use this one. And I'm going to spread this out just a little bit before I put it on the curve. Give it a little bit of kerning, just like we did before, using that kerning tool. And I could have even adjusted over here, just like we talked about. And let's take this first one and say text, and we're going to fit that text to path. And you can see when I bring it on here, it's flowing in the direction of the line. Now I can put it on there, and I can do my flipping it around and get it to go that way. But remember, it's a couple more steps, but it's always going to flow along the line. And if I take this one and bring it down there, go text, fit text to path, it goes with the direction that it was in the beginning. So now I've got it flowing along that line. I can increase my kerning along there if I want to change the spacing on it, hold that down. You can see it stretching out a little bit. Maybe I want to go to a larger font on it. I can go to 80, and it'll flow right along that line. Again, if I'm all done with this, I would click on the line, not the font, and right-click and cut. And that should get rid of the line for me and leave the imprintables right there. Now, this is especially important with the next one that I'm going to show you because when we go to cut this design, for those of you that are working with CAD cutters, we want to, say I want to have this, and I'll move that guy out of the way as well. Say I want this imprintables right here to go vertical. It's going down a pant leg or down an arm sleeve or something along that line, and I need the text to go all the way down that and space it out properly. Well, when we fit text to a curve, let's look at this one first before we get over there. And I'm going to get rid of this guy right here so you can see it a little better. We've got text to the curve, and there's a couple presets that we have over here. If I hover on this, it shows text orientation, shows how the text bends to follow the path. And right now, you can see the A, B, and C. They're kind of offset a little bit. We've got a couple different presets here. This one here, you'll see that it doesn't change too much. If we had more drastic of a curve, you'd be able to see it. The A and the C would move out, so the letters move out. The next one here, they're straight up and down. Well, this one's a little bit of an issue because it adjusted it. And remember, that was because of the way the curve flowed. If we had everything on this curve instead, and we'll take the imprintables here, make a quick copy, text, fit text to path, and we'll put it on this one. And let's change our spacing here to 50. So we've got it spread out a little bit more. We'll get this guy out of the way. Let's zoom in, hit Z to zoom in, and now we'll go back to it. The text on here, we'll go down to this one. You can see, and it made it follow to the curve. So maybe that's a bad example right there. Let's go back to the circle to show you a little better. I know it shows on that one very nicely. So we'll make a circle. It is doing what we want. It's making it all straight up and down, but it's trying to move it around that curve a little bit too much. And I would have to take this and then adjust it. I could sit there and mirror it back and forth to get it the way I want it to on that curve, and it is still straight up and down right there, just as in that preset showed, straight up and down. But let's show this on the circle. So we'll bring that, and we'll take this guy and text, fit text to path, and we'll put it on the circle right here. And now let's watch that one for those presets. So bring it here into this one. Doesn't move it too terrible much. We go to this one, and now they're straight up and down. There's no outward tilt to any of the letters. And to the next one, it gives it a lot of outward tilt on that one. It's kind of trying to make it go in a funky way. So you can change it on here and how it tilts and how it works within that curve with these presets. Well, I didn't hit the last one on the list because that one's going to show on this one it's straight up and down, but it'll be a little bit different when we're working with vertical text. So we've got our line here, and we can see the line, the direction that it went. It's going from top to bottom. That's important because we want it to flow that way. And we'll take our text right here, the imprintables, and I'll hit text, fit text to path, and we're going to come to this line. So right about there is fine. We can put it right on top of it. That's good. And I'll zoom in on this so you guys can see it a little bit better. And now when I take this and change the orientation to the bottom one, you can see it's going in a line straight down there. And now I can change my kerning here in between it, the character spacing. Let's make it 125. And that gives a nice space in between everything. So we see it going all the way down. Now remember earlier we talked about, let's give it just a little bit more spacing. Instead of 125, we'll go to 150. There we go. We talked about earlier, a lot of people will just take this and say, okay, I just need to get rid of that line, so I'll come over and select the line and right-click on the no fill color, no color for outline there, and perfect. That's exactly the way I wanted it. But this actually sets you up for a little bit of an issue. If I was going to go send this to cut in either a print and cut or just a simple cutter program, what the cutter is going to see is the wireframe view. And we can see in wireframe there's a line going straight down through this that it would cut. And that's going to ruin our graphic right there. So let's do it a little different way. And we'll Control Z. We've got that line back. When I select the line now, right-click and cut, it removes the line, leaves the graphic there. And when I go to my wireframe view, I have it all set up for an arm sleeve, pant leg, however you wanted, and a nice vertical orientation on there using the text tools. So that's a couple of text to path. Let's delete a couple of these and get them out of here. I don't want this last imprintables down there. I need to save that. I'm still in wireframe view. I'm going to show you the envelope in a little bit here. Go back to Enhance View. So we did vertical text, some variants on text to path, and let's look at outlines. We'll come back to this page here in a second. So here we've got a couple pieces of text, and I want to work with the outlines on it. On the artistic text down here in this font that's Arial Black, it's pretty easy to work with, pretty easy to see how outlines work. If I come over here and right-click on my red outline, I've got a slight red outline on it right there. It shows hairline up here. I can drop this down, and maybe I want to go to a nice 4-point outline. I've got that big, bold outline around it. I can go to the properties of this right here, the outline settings, and drag that over, dual monitors again, and we can change some of the stuff on it. You can see how sharp the corners are there, and if I don't want sharp corners on this, I want to round them out, I can tell it to round the corners for me, and I can change the line caps to a rounded right there. And also, I like it behind the fill so that it's not going in both ways. But we'll leave it like this right now, and I'm not going to scale it so you can see some things that will go on. So we'll hit OK. And if I zoom in, you can see it rounded out those corners and gave it a nice end cap to it. This is a nice effect in here. But what happens is if I go to wireframe view, the outline is a property of that text, and it's not its own object. So if I were to cut this on a cutter, it's not going to cut that portion of it. So we'll go back to Enhance. And also, I didn't tell it to scale with the image, and it's not behind it. So as I bring this out and change it, it's actually gotten thinner across there. It's still a 4-point, but it's not scaling with the image. So as the text gets larger, it's not going with it. So let's hit Z, and you can see it's much thicker looking right there, the spacing between it. And we'll go back to the properties of it. Bring this back over. And now I'll say behind fill and scale with object. And when I hit OK on this one, now it's nice and neat behind there. I've got a small amount of spacing right there in between the eye. And when I move it, that spacing stays proportional. And you can see that now it's 5.61 points. It scales with the text on there. So those are a couple options you might want to look into if you're changing the size of the text and want to control it there. Remember, on our fill here, I can also do, instead of uniform fill, I can do fountain fill, I can do bitmap, pattern, texture fill, all this stuff. If I want to do a fountain fill, it's going right across there, and I've got some to pick from, or I can make my own fountain fill in there. So let's just take that back to a regular black. Now, we haven't addressed the issue in here for cutting, though, that this line around here, although it shows on our screen, is not something that we can cut. It's simply there, and if I went to send this to the cutter, all it would see is this right here. And that's not going to work for this text. So what you're going to do, let's make this a little bit smaller so we've got everything on the screen. What you're going to do is on the text itself, when I'm happy with the way it looks right here, I can go to Arrange and Convert Outline to Object. What that does is it takes that property, that outline of the text itself, and now it's going to convert it into its own separate outline. So I'm going to do it 2 times here. First time I'll do it, and you can see it made some mistakes right there. And that's one of the reasons why I don't necessarily like working with outlines all the time. And it kind of tried to convert things over because it was touching in separate areas. And I can try to move this out. Sometimes it'll fix it, make sure I've got spacing between there. Let's try it again. Arrange, Outline to Object. And that did a better job. It wasn't trying to connect. What happened before is because they were touching, it tried to connect. And we still have a slight issue right here. But more than that, let's look in wireframe. It actually went to the inside and the outside of that text. So if I sent this to my cutter, it's going to cut all of these lines. And now I have overlapping all over the place. So that's not a real good way to do things. So we'll go back to our Enhanced, and we'll hit Control-Z. The preferred way that I like to do it, let's actually make a copy of this. I right-clicked as I dragged it up. That made a copy. And we're going to remove that outline there, and I would use the Contour tool. That's my preferred one for this. So Contour will go to the outside. Hit Apply on this. That's way too much right there. So we'll drop this into maybe a 0.08, see how that looks. Still need to go down, and we'll go to 0.4. So that's much closer to what I had there. There's a little bit more of a gap there, so maybe a 0.3 or 0.02. And I guess 0.3 was the one to go with right there. So that's pretty close to what we have down there. Now again, if I look at this in wireframe, look at that. I have it all set up with 2 lines right there. There's no overlapping. I didn't have to convert an outline to object because it is an object. It contoured out. And it's a much smoother and better way to work with your outlines on text to make sure that there's no issues later on. This is true with all objects as well. It's not just text, but I found a lot of people run into issues with this. I have problem files that are sent to me to evaluate, and this is one of the top things that comes out because they're trying to put a cut line around this one down here, and when they look at it, they see it there, but it's not physically there because it's a property of the object. So that's one thing right there. Now let's take a look at the artistic text up here. I'm just going to delete these 2 guys because we don't need them anymore. We'll take this one and put it into the center of the page. And again, in wireframe, when I went to that, I can see that they're all overlapping, and we've got some issues here. Well, how are we going to address this, these overlapping in here? If I go to my kerning tool and move this out, well, that just spaces them out, and then I can get it to where there's space in between them. But that may not be what we're looking for. That doesn't necessarily look right. This is a brush script, and I want it to look like somebody wrote it there just like it is. So instead of doing that, I have to take this at this point and convert it to a curve. When I'm all set and done with it, I'm happy with it, I'm going to send it over to the cutter. I'll convert this to curves. And when I convert it to curve, let's look at it in wireframe. All those overlaps are still there, but what I can do now is I can break the curve apart so they're all separate sections, and then I can select the individual portions here going across. So I'm holding the Shift key as I'm selecting each one of those. And those different portions, I didn't select the inside of the A or the inside of the S here or those 2 I's, and I will click Weld. And now once I've welded them, it's all one piece right across there. I'll do the same with the text. And I'll weld that, and now that's all one smooth piece going across there. When I look at this in Enhanced View, though, you're going to see an issue. The inside of the A, the inside of the S, and the inside of the E. Those portions are still there. We saw them in wireframe. They haven't gone away. What you need to do at the last portion there is select all of this, including those inner portions, and then we'll select Combine up here. And then it combines those objects into a single object with common properties. And you can see it creates it in there. And when we look at it in wireframe, everything's all set for a cutter. So if you have any of these texts that have overlaps or something like that, this is the way to go about it to correct those issues and make sure that we have it the way we want it. All right. Let's make sure I'm following along. And we fit text to path, did some variants, worked with outlines, converted to an object, removed overlapping lines, and worked in wireframe view. So let's go to the next slide. And now we're going to look at a drop shadow that you can cut, work with the envelope power clip, and I've got a mosaic effect, and show you what the font navigator is and what the font. So let's go back to Corel and onto the next page. So what I mean by a drop shadow that you can cut is this right here. We've got a two-color design in here, and it's a drop shadow right there, which the drop shadow is actually just a copy of all this. Say I wanted to do this now is the time up in here, and I wanted to give it a drop shadow effect. If I use the drop shadow tool within Corel, which a lot of people will go to, well, I can make a nice drop shadow, and I'll drag it out there. And it's thinking. There we go. And we see a drop shadow, but that's not really a cuttable item. If I look at this in wireframe, it's not doing what we wanted it to. So the easiest way for two-tone or three-tone cuttable items, I'll select the font here, what I'm working with, and I'll hit Control-C. I've copied it, Control-V, I'll paste it, and now I'll change the top one to whatever color I was trying to get. So now it's red, and I'll just use my arrow keys to move it up and over a little bit, and now I've got a nice little drop shadow there that works with it. The thing to look at next, though, is if we look at this in wireframe, that's a lot of overcutting right there, and that's not what we want to do. So let's go back to Enhanced, and if I select both of these guys, though, and I'll convert them to curves, because at this point when we're going to make this a cuttable item, we have to convert it to curves. And now with them like that on there, I can use my trim tool up here in my weld and trim tools, like we did in one of the earlier webinars. I'll click on that, and what we see in wireframe at this point is that these are set for cut and they're offset, so that I have two different colors and they will line up, and it's not going to have vinyl over vinyl. So we'll put that back so you can see how it would look here, how it looks enhanced, and it's a cuttable item. This in printables down here was done the same way, but that one's not set up yet for the cutting. So let's do this while it's in wireframe. We'll take this, and I'm going to convert these to curves, and then we'll do that trim, and you'll see the inner portions go right away. And now we've got a nice little drop shadow, and it's set up for cutting. You can see it offset right there. Kind of looks neater in that one, I think. So we've got that for making a drop shadow that you can cut in here. Let's go back a couple pages to the envelope tool that I was going to show you guys. And in the envelope tool, when we're working with a text, there's a couple things we can do. I can take this item right here, and let's zoom in on it a bit, and go over to my envelope tool. And I can apply an envelope to this. I can use either the envelope tool or come over here to the toolbox, and that opens up on the top. What I like to do with this, because a lot of people like to get a curved shape or have it going along a path there, and I'm not necessarily going to use a path, but I can come up here to my single arc, and I encourage you to play around with the different arcs. Excuse me, I'm going to go to single arc, and I'm going to hold down Shift and grab that guy there, and you can see I can move them out like this, or in single arc, I can hold Control and drag them up, and they go together to make a nice arc there, like that. So that's a quick and easy way that I can do an arc with the envelope tool. You can even play around with these after that, grab each individual arm. So we'll take this guy and grab that one right there, and I can play around with each of these individuals. I can play with the different lines there and change it around how I want. There's quite a bit you can do with this at this point. So if you're holding the Shift or Control key, it'll work differently within that. So let's take this back a little bit. I need the original font there. I didn't make a copy of it. I should have. And redo that so we've got our portion there. And what I want to show you is with that same tool, the envelope tool in our envelope box over here, say I want to make a shape here, and I want this font here to fill this shape. I can define it however I want. And this is just a simple rectangle that I created here, and I'm going to right-click and convert it to curves. I'll go to my shape tool, and I'm going to right-click on this line here and make this to a curve. And I'm going to drag this up a little bit. Once I've got that to the shape that I want my text to fit, whatever design that would be, now I can take the text. I can go to this eyedropper tool right here in my envelope docker and create from. You can also do it from the envelope tools up on the top. So I'll create from, select this here, and you can see the envelope that it's going to create right there around it. And when I hit apply, it forms to that shape right there. Pretty neat effect that you can do with that. There are some presets that you can work with within the envelope tool. There's a lot you can do with this. I just wanted to show you real quick how to do a curve, because a lot of people are asking me, how do I do a curve like this or the other curve simply within the envelope tool, going in single arc mode and holding down control, grabbing that top one and curving it up a little bit. So two different effects that you can do very quickly with the envelope tool. And I'm trying to watch my time, so if I'm rushing a little bit, I apologize, but I want to make sure that I get through all the content here. Power clip into text. Let's go to the next one. We've got this fancy design in here, some graphic, a bitmap, and I've got my font up here and everything. I can take this photograph, and now we're going to make something that's very different from anything else out there. I want to go to Effects and Power Clip, place inside frame. I click on the frame now, and now I've got a text that has that photograph inside of it. So if I were doing this for a print and cut, say on an inkjet transfer or an eco-solvent-based printer cutter, you can see how you can make some amazing effects within this. And we're going to play around with this on the mosaic one next. You can edit that power clip within there. So if I wanted this to maybe be a little higher up, when I edit the power clip, now I can grab this, and I want this to be higher up in there, maybe fill in that portion, or I want the sky in there. So let's drag it down so it's sky, none of that portion in there. And then when I'm happy, I click on Stop Editing Contents, and you can see it's all filled within there. That's definitely a different effect than just a simple CAD cut vinyl out there. So if you're using those inkjet or that eco-solvent base, this is something that you can do that really sets you apart. Next, a little mosaic effect. I've got a paragraph box, like I was telling you guys earlier, and I've repeated the Shen. Shen is a local high school here, Shenandoah, and I want to make something different, something neat. I want to take in this Shen down here that I would normally cut to put on the shirt, and I want to make it a little bit different by using an inkjet with a cutter that's got an optical eye, or my printer cutter like I did before. And now I'm going to take the Shen up here, and I'm going to go to my text box, and I'm going to change the fill on this. Instead of a uniform fill, let's go to a fountain fill, and then we'll pick one of these rainbow patterns within here. So I've got that all set up, and with this still selected, I go to Effects. Before we do that, let's rotate this a little bit. We'll maybe make it like a 30-degree angle. Okay, and maybe a little bit bigger here. Adjust it out. So make sure that it'll fit within this whole thing. So we're going to adjust it out so it'll fit in there, and rotate it just a little bit more. So there we go. I like that. So we'll take this, and I need to make it a little bit smaller on the sides because it started extending the other Shens. There we go. You guys get the idea. I can add more Shens in here to make this bigger. But now, even with this up here, I'll go to Effects, Power Clip, Place Inside Frame. When I click down here, what did I do wrong? All right, what are we doing here? Figure this out real quick. I may have done something wrong here. We'll back up a little bit, because you can always reset yourself back. So we'll go back to a color, and now let's try that. Effects, Power Clip, Place Inside Frame. There we go. That's what I was looking for. and then I could rotate it and all that stuff in there. So now I've got the Shen repeating inside of there, and maybe I'll make that no fill. So now I've got kind of that effect going on and give it a little black outline around there, and I can change the size of the outline, make it 2-point, and we'll make this a little bit smaller. So, and it adjusted all the stuff inside there when you adjust it in there. So if I'm going to make it smaller, what I'll want to do is extract the power clip. So we'll extract that power clip contents and move those out of the way. And you can see this lines that it creates in here. That tells us that it's a frame for a power clip object. It's not being affected by it, but it's still a frame. So now we'll take that, go to Effects, Power Clip, and place it inside that frame again. And there we go. It's a little bit better. I like that effect a little bit more. So you can work within this. I could give it a slightly gray background if I wanted to, or different variants of that, no background fill or anything else along with it. I could even do a fountain fill inside of there that works the opposite direction, so you kind of get a counter effect. So pretty neat effect you can do with the mosaic. What I wanted to try to do, and I didn't have a list to work off of, was to show you how to do this with maybe, say, student names. So if you had the high school name and you wanted to put all the students in that particular class inside of a shape or lettering itself, you could do that. And this, I just repeated the name of the school over and over for it. So real quick now, we're going to go through the font navigator and what the font. The font navigator, if you go to your start menu and go to Corel, the folder for it, and I'm bringing it up on the other screen. I apologize for that. We'll go to Bitstream Font Navigator, and I'll bring it over on the screen here when it comes up. This is where all of your fonts live. And cancel on that. So what it is this Font Navigator. Here's all the fonts that are on my computer, and it's not necessarily all the fonts that are installed. You can have it search for fonts within your system, or if you have a hard drive, external hard drive or something like that. And then if there was a font that I liked in here, when I click on it, I can see an example of it right there, and we can change that example and say this is one that I wanted to add. I could drag it over here and add it in there, and now that's installed on my Windows system, and it'll be available inside of Corel. So that's how you work with adding fonts in here, or if you're comfortable with it, you can download different fonts and you can install them into the Windows font library, the folder within the Windows folder on your computer. But I find that this is a pretty good way of working with that, and it has different sort and styles tools so that I can search for a font within my system with it if I want to. Last but not least, I've got What the Font. What the Font is available, I believe, in Corel X3 and older, and it's a tool for being able to find a font on the internet. So say, I know this is balloon font, I wrote this up, but say I was trying to figure out what font this was, and I couldn't, it wasn't recognizable to me. It was something that I hadn't seen before. I can go to text, and as long as you're connected to the internet, if you're not connected to the internet, this will not work. And go to What the Font, and it takes it a second to come up. So we'll give it a couple seconds here, and it'll come up with a little crosshair for us when it does. So it's reaching out and trying to make sure that it's got a connection before it allows me to do this. And there's my little crosshair. So I'll drag the crosshair across this, and it'll highlight that portion there, and when I'm happy with what I've selected, I click on it and it captures it. And now it's going to take a second and come up with a web page for us. It's processing, so it's got to reach out to What the Font. Excuse me again. And it'll come up and try to identify the different characters that are within that font by breaking that graphic down and letting us choose what those letters are. So I identified the T, E, S, T. Oh, it says it's 1. I know it's not a 1, so I'll put an I in there instead. Let's see, G, B, A, L, nothing in there, L, O, O, N. And it looks like it found just about everything there. Now, of course, this is dependent upon the graphic that you have and how crisp and clean it is and what other items are in the background there. But we can see it found it on here, balloon extra bold and balloon SSB, and it shows us examples all the way down. and also gives you a link to different places where you could download that font. Some of them are free, some of them are pay. But it's a great way to be able to try to figure out a font if you're having a tough time with it, and then see if you have that font on your system. So that is What the Font. Now I'm running short on time, but I believe I've covered everything that's in here. I apologize if it was a little quick for some of you out there, but the webinar will be available online for you to review later. Looking for video idea and webinar ideas from you guys as always, and we're on May 21st. We're going to go into session 4. We're going to combine all the stuff from the previous sessions and do a full project. Start out from beginning to end and have something that's a customer project. They've come to you. We're going to look at how to design it up, how to produce it, and how to get the finished product to the customer. And I believe we got a couple minutes at least for some questions. I'm sure there's some out there.
Yes. Georgia was wondering if you could touch on how to turn the autocorrect feature on and off. She feels like it always seems to change her lower cases to capitals, which isn't necessarily what she always wants to do, but the toggle text doesn't seem to work for it.
Okay. So the autocorrect for your casing and everything, that would be under Tools and your Options. I'd have to dig a little bit for where that one's at. I don't have it set up on mine, but you can change the casing within the font itself. I can right-click on it, and I can, where's it at in here? There's spell check within there. Boy, she's got me on a good one here. I thought I'd be able to come up with it pretty quick. Let me see if this one. Select that, right-click. I thought it was right in here. I'm going to have to take a look and see where that autocorrect is. I know it's in here, and I know you can change the casing of it and everything, but I'm going to have to take a look at that. You can go up to the text menu up here as well, and then there's change case right there, and you can work within that. And then there's some writing tools in here, so maybe under the writing tools for settings, let's take a look there real quick. And that one, is there an autocorrect? Perform automatic spell checking right there. So that's how you would do it. Hey, look at that, we found it.
Great job.
Hopefully that helps her.
So far, that's the only question we've had come in.
Wow.
Is the auto? I know.
I was throwing so much at them so quick, they were just overwhelmed.
Either that, or you explained it so well, they don't have any questions about it. No one has any
I don't know
questions.
about that. I try, but I don't know if I explain everything that well. They're just going to go back and watch it later, I suppose. So hopefully, I believe it was Georgia you said, that helped you out, and that was what you were looking for on there. Like I said, the video is recorded, so it will be available in the next day or two. And we've got all the contact information right here for everybody. Printables.com, the mainline number, the 518-630-6655 is my direct desk number, and my email address is right there at the bottom. I can't thank everybody enough for coming out today and spending some time with us, and I guess that's it for this one.
Yes, and thank you so much, Stephen, for joining us, and I'm very much looking forward to next week's session, or next month's session, where we get to put it all together.
Outstanding. Again, thanks everybody, and we'll see you at the next webinar.
Great. Have a great day, everyone.